I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Much, and we'll start with the roll call. Kenny?
Here.
Guy?
Here.
Jeff? Here. Nate? Here. And Derek is here. We will start with public comment. Do you have any tonight?
No.
All right. We'll move on to discussion of possible action on special or a school board meeting minutes, July 20th, regular school board meeting, and the August 1st special school board meeting minutes. If there's a question, we'll take a motion. We'll do them separately if you would, please.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from the July 20th. 2022 meeting.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Guy, second by Nate to approve the July 20th regular school board meeting minutes. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries.
I'll make a motion to approve the August 1st special board meeting minutes. I'll second it.
Motion by Jeff, second by Kenny to approve the August 1st special board meeting minutes. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next up is approval to accept the treasurer's report.
You've got the two regular sheets in here that we normally have. But there's not a whole lot after 1 month of activity in the district, so it's not a lot I should say from that. But I can tell you about financially with the audit, wrap it really quickly. We're only here for 2 days with the 3 auditors, and that's usually about 1 day less than normally I would have expected. And I can just tell between Colleen and Andrea, we really got things done and accomplished early ahead of time. I was looking at the journal entries they sent late this afternoon. We had 6 adjusting journal entries. Last year we had 16. So they really cleaned up processes and have things done. And we really worked on trying to make sure that everything that's recorded should be recorded, so the auditors don't have to spend their time doing that. So I'm going to compliment those two really being on top of things. I thought it went pretty smoothly. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely.
But easier in the last couple of years
Yeah.
even.
They rarely even bugged me, so that's good news.
Yeah.
Great job, Andrea.
Yeah.
Not much to talk about. It's good.
Great job, Colleen. Great job, Dennis.
Just quick question on in Fund 10, the insurance was like 40,000 against last month or last year was 6. Like we spent half of it in the first month. Is that just a timing thing?
Yeah, it could be exactly the timing. Most of that's going to be liability, property, workers' comp, those kind of things. And she just may have paid the bills early. It's not additional more than we expected.
Okay.
Just again,
So it won't
again,
change
Colleen's
the-
on top of things even better and probably get things done quicker.
Okay, thank you.
Can you take a motion to accept the treasurer's report?
I'll make a motion to accept the treasurer's report.
We have a motion by Jeff, second by Guy to accept the treasurer's report. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next up, I will make the motion to approve payroll for 8/30 and 9/15/2022 and vouchers 423260 to 423363 and 2022-00001 to 2022-00034 in the amount of $406,004.22.
I'll second it, Eric.
We have a motion by Derek, second by Kenny. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries.
Principals are on their way right now.
Okay.
They're cleaning up from the reception.
Our first item under new business is the discussion of possible action on elementary and middle school handbooks. And we will-
So you have the handbooks in front of you. I kind of defer the questions until you see, until they get to come up here. But you've got them, you've had a chance to look at them. You could do so while we wait for them, or if you want to go on to the next item, you could do that, and then we could come back to it.
Why don't we go on, we'll come back to that.
I do have questions.
Okay, yeah, we'll wait for them to come back in.
Yeah.
For this
If
next-
you want them, you can ask.
Yeah, next topic is the review of administration and board goals. Did you want to wait for them for that too? Go to the hiring?
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. So we're gonna go to Section 7C, we have resignations there.
Sure. First resignation, Shauna James has been in food service for the last couple of years. She's had some health issues where it'd be easier for her to have more of a desk job, and she's on a full-time position actually in Sun Prairie, so she's resigning to take a full-time position. She was 5.5 hours here, which is not a benefited position, so it's a move up for her. We did hire an extra one earlier this summer, so we're back now to the same staffing level we had last year. We're still looking now for that 5th person for another 4 hours, and Holly Vermillion is seeking someone for that. Then you have Kobe Kirky, who's resigning from middle school science. He called many of you. He found an opportunity. He did find an opportunity, an opportunity presented to him from outside of education, which is hard for him to turn down. And then Brianna Sighthammer, again, someone who presented to her in a different district, teaching just health, what her true passion is, that she wanted to teach health, happens to be her hometown too. So it was a little hard for her to say no to that. Both of them, I think their letters are in your packet. I think they're both sad to leave, would love to stay, but it just was too good or too close to the heart.
Is there are they gonna have to pay something for their contract or?
It's in their contracts that they would pay $2,000.
Just the teachers or the food service also?
Not for just the teachers, yes. That's what their contract says. It's a board can always waive that, but that's what their contract says.
I mean, given the timing of it, or just a late notice, would it be your recommendation to hold them to that, or?
Normally you do that at this time of year. It is really late. They both have asked me about it. I said, it's up to the board, but you could ask where you're going to pay that for you. I don't know if they've asked that. I think one of them asked it and got a negative, but their district was not going to do that. I don't want to. Liquidated damages is to convince people not to leave because they had to pay this.
Yeah.
It's not working. It could be $5,000, and I think people are still going to go where they want to go, what's best for them in their life. So now it becomes more punitive than anything.
And I can't blame either one of these people for leaving.
Well,
But you can't leave it. You can't leave 2 weeks before school starts.
I think we have to assess. That's my personal opinion is we have to assess it.
What's it called? Kobe and both of them have done a lot of positive things.
No, you're right. They
They're not leaving in spite of something. They're not leaving on bad terms. Both people could come back tomorrow and we take them with open arms.
have we got both positions filled?
Not defined yet. The science will be approved here later tonight. You may have met her out there.
I mean, they've both done a lot for this. I mean, I'm just gonna put them both together. They've done a lot and spent a lot of time after school coaching different events and doing things for kids. And certainly they don't make a lot of money doing those coaching things. And it's not necessarily that they're volunteering or they're even doing it for the money. But we would both take them in open arms. And would they want to come back if we were going to be petty over $2,000? I don't know. I would say that we pay
Your way.
we waive it. Yeah, that would be my thought.
Yeah, and
They put us in a bad spot, but they didn't do it intentionally. It's not a negative thing.
yeah, and I worry about the precedence of, like just the late notice of it. That's what got me, and especially Kobe, leaving because the industry is paying more. I mean, to me, that's what you got to calculate, right? That's part of the process to take a role is that, and I don't want to disincentivize or disincentivize, people from leaving. So, yeah, agree with you. Great things. Welcome them back with open arms.
the precedent is one of the questions you have to ask yourselves. You like Andrea, you don't make her pay. You don't like Dennis, you make him pay. You know, it's, that is a challenge if you go down this road. We had a couple of administrative type positions where we waived it because they stuck around and helped and kind of gave a roadmap to the next person.
Each case is different.
In every case
Maybe
is
we
different.
don't like some, maybe we are happy to see people go.
But
I mean, and then we don't pay their, I mean, listen, it's life, it's business, I mean, I don't know.
I do know when Kobe.
I
called me-
agree with what you're saying though too, Jeff, I do.
It's a tough one.
I know Kobe called me and I believe he tried to do everything he could to get the new science teacher up to speed. I mean, I think he did. The way he talked, he did, but. It's,
I believe either one will leave every lesson plan they have to help the next person, because they're leaving on good terms. They love Fall River. They didn't really want to leave, it's just they did. They would help just as other people have too.
I feel like, I don't know, I feel like we try to be really, I guess I do, I mean, our actions speak that we are pro-teacher. Our
yeah,
actions
Yep.
speak that we are trying to do as much as we can to keep teachers. What does it say to the teachers that maybe are never going to leave, or that aren't gonna leave, that look at it like, man, they really respect Kobe and Mrs. Sighthammer, and they've done things for us, so we're gonna do something for them. It's give and take, and we certainly.
What are your thoughts, Kenny?
I think we should assess the $2,000 just for how late it is.
Do you want to vote on each or?
Yeah, we'll need to, yeah, I'm just trying to think like, because I'm still grappling with this too, because I hadn't necessarily thought about this at the time when I saw these come across. If there's a way that, do we do something in the middle to reduce it, knowing that like these are people who are leaving on good terms and they've done a lot for our school, but also still keeping that precedent of like, we need to make sure that we're putting in early when we are leaving, because it does, like, we may not have a FIAD teacher right away. Not that it's anyone's fault for that, except for the applicant pool is why we have this damages in place.
I think it's all or nothing. I think it's one or the other. Makes it a lot easier. It's black and white. Either for it or against it.
I think you probably, whatever you want to do, you make a motion, like you, Shauna, because she's separate. Further than a motion for Kobe and a motion for Brianna. However you want to state the motion, you can go yes or no on the motion, whatever you want to have the motion say.
I'll make a motion to waive Kobe Kirkie's $2,000 penalty.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we'll do a roll call just to go through here. This is just for Kobe to be clear. So Kenny,
no,
Guy,
there's good precedents on both ways you look at it, but yeah, I can waive it, yeah.
Jeff,
No.
Nate,
Yes, waive it.
and I'm going to say yes, waive it also. The motion passes 3-2.
Who had seconded that motion?
Jeff,
Now you want for Brianna.
I'll make a motion to waive Brianna Sighthammer's $2,000 penalty.
I'll second.
and motion by Nate, second by Jeff, and I'll do a roll call for this also. Kenny,
No,
Guy,
yes,
Jeff,
No.
Nate,
Yes.
and I will also be yes.
Now you need to approve Shauna James. She's not liable for this. She's just resignation.
Well, I'll put a motion to accept Sean James' resignation.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Kenny, second by Nate to approve Shauna James' resignation. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next up, hiring.
The one you have in front of you is Stephen Shepherd, that many of you know or met tonight. He's a proposal for middle school math teacher, also for assistant track coach. Jenny Buzzle for gifted and talented coordinator, and Krista Powers for middle school science teacher. We may have met Krista out here tonight too.
Is Mrs. Buzzles in addition,
It's an additional
Okay.
stipend, like forensics.
so she's staying in 4th grade?
Yes,
Perfect.
but she's getting new desks this year, so she's staying.
Got to, huh? Driver.
Is that what we did, right?
On the 22nd.
Well, the new lunch table that you guys approved too, they're coming on Monday also.
Awesome. Fantastic. Is that what the graphics and everything is? It is?
Yeah, about half of them got the
Okay.
graphics on it.
That's fantastic, great.
Feels like so long though.
Feels like last October.
It's about right.
It's like- I think
Well, I didn't
around
remember.
October.
I was gonna say, I don't remember.
Well, you'll like it. You'll like it. They got the photographic on it.
Is there,
Yeah, they'll have our logos on
Cool.
is there anybody that would like to take individual nominations, or should we do this in one?
Fine,
all in one.
We can do it all together.
All right, then I'll make a motion to accept Adrian Shepherd as middle school math teacher and assistant track coach. Jenny Buzzle as the gifted and talented coordinator, in addition to her current responsibilities, and Krista Powers for middle school science teacher.
I'll second you, Jeff. We have a motion by Jeff, second by Kenny. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Now we're going to circle back to 7A, the discussion of possible action on elementary and middle school high school handbooks.
So the elementary handbook essentially didn't change other names, positions, things like that, key places. Most of the main updates I made is actually from the year before. That's gonna be the safety, and weapons type things. I kind of got more detailed in that area, last year, which was approved. But other than that, for the most part, the handbook has stayed the same this year. Reason being, I kind of assessed how the year went, and if there was anything that kind of with a handbook, or I read it during the year, during the situation, I'm like, ooh, I need to update that or tweak that or change that. Last year, I didn't have any of that. So looking at this year, I felt like I could keep it the same. But like I said, the previous year, I did make those changes, to get more specific in the weapons.
Yes, yes. So we would take a motion to approve the elementary handbook, if there's no questions.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Guy, second by Nate to approve the elementary handbook. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. That's why.
So I also made several, I went through it first with a fine tooth comb and just kind of fixed up some of the grammar mechanic things, minor details. I did not highlight those for you in yellow. And then I updated the names at the beginning and throughout the people that were there, updated the board, those sorts of things. If you look, I did highlight many of the changes, just things that, I hope you understand some of the changes that I did make. I do want to say that as I was going through this the first time, my goal is to make sure that whatever we have in this handbook is not only enforceable, but it's also going to make the most sense for our students, for our teachers, for our parents, and our population as a whole. If you look at page 4, the first change that I made, it's highlighted in yellow. Originally that said I think it said bullets, pellets, listed out BBs, all these different types, and I just narrowed that down to ammunition. That way, if anything else comes up, it's covered underneath that single word of ammunition. And then I did take out the permanent markers because that would mean students aren't allowed to use Sharpies. So just so you're understanding
Still
why
in
I
elementary.
put that one in there. If you go to page 5, I did not highlight this one, I apologize, but under the bicycle, skateboards, and inline skates, I just struck out the students are to walk their bicycles on school grounds directly to the bike rack. That seemed unreasonable to me. I think they could ride their bikes to the bike rack and then put them in the bike rack and lock them up. And if you go over to the next page, on page 6, the first one is dress and attire. And before I started looking at that one, I went through and printed off several examples from surrounding schools. I have bigger schools like Beaver Dam and Columbus, Cambria, Partyville, Dodgeland, Randolph, just to look at what other schools, not only near us, but also in the surrounding conference in the area, have in theirs. And I want to let you know that they range from everything to kind of like a free-for-all open dress code policy to similar to what ours is, which is a little more straightforward, laid out and all of that. I also did look at the current board policy, and I was not able to find anything in the current board policy specifically on dress code. So I don't know, Mr. Burr, if you're aware of something that maybe I wasn't looking in the right spot on that, but I don't think there's anything there. But I did look at what we are going to be proposing later to be adding in the Neola policies. Based upon current schools, and that policy just says that basically students are dressing appropriately for school in a safe manner that's not disruptive to student learning. So I just wanted you to have that background as to what my thinking was as I was going in and just kind of looking through that specific section of it. If you look at it, I basically was trying to make sure that, again, whatever we have in here is enforceable, it's not distracting to students' learning, and it's safe for our students. So that was kind of what my goal was. With number one, I struck out the idea of free of excessive tears and just kept it as safe to wear for the types of activities performed by the students. Only because if you walk through our school at any point, we see students with ripped jeans on. So at what point, I just don't know how I would enforce that with the excessive tears. So that's why I took that piece out. If you look at number 4, I did add the words including profanity innuendos because I know that in the past there have been issues with that. And here it's at least following with what we have with it being laid out, where if you have something that's a sexual innuendo is already in there, but this guy's adding the profanity as well. Number 5 is the one that might, again, this is not something that I'm dead set on, so I'd like to get the board's opinion on this. And then just to kind of back up a little bit, I do plan in September at my first staff meeting to let my staff know that I would like to get a handbook committee together and start talking about some of this in October so that it's not just a me coming in making these decisions, but going through this the first time, I wanted to make sure that whatever was in here is something that I felt confident that I could support and that I would be able to make sure that is followed with our student body. So with number 5, the midriffs was in there, and again, this is not one that I, a do or die for me, but with the current trends, there are certain ways that we can have girls dress with the higher pants and the shorter shirts where they're not showing their belly buttons, but there might be something out. Again, I was just looking at things that I would be able to, in good faith, support without having to call home with the current trends and what things look like. I did take out the spaghetti tanks and halter tops because I felt as though with some sort of strap on there, it provides that safety of no one could come behind a girl and pull her shirt down or do something like that. But again, it leaves that leeway of girls being able to wear sundresses and things like that to school if they chose. But I did add the word tube tops so that we're not going strapless because I just don't think that that would be appropriate. And for me, it's almost a safety thing where you don't have something there to hold the shirt up. For number 6, I also added, took out the revealing of the shoulder. Again, my shirt that I'm wearing right now could potentially, depending on what I'm in, reveal part of my shoulder, and that I don't think that that's something that's feasibly enforceable for not only our staff, but also for me as their principal. Similarly with electronic devices, I did go through, yep.
Just a quick question on that one, and I do think they're all very reasonable. On number 6, just the underarm piece, like I don't know how you wear a spaghetti strap without showing the underarm.
Right, so what that was looking at is like the actual like underarm down in the side, and I can reword that too, because I know for a while, it's specifically actually looking at men, and wearing like the, I don't know what you call them, like the tank tops that hang way lower, the cutoff shirts and those sorts of things, where now if they lean over, it's just, opens that up. That actually is more geared towards, in my reading of it, more
Yep.
towards men than, but
Okay,
I could clean up that language if that would be something. that
yeah, I
we
read armpit, so I was trying
Yeah,
to figure out
no,
how's
that
that gonna
makes
work, but
sense.
no, that makes sense.
I appreciate that. With regards to electronic devices and cell phones after that, the current board policy says that students will have access to their phones. The way the handbook is written, they're supposed to have their electronics kept in their lockers. I don't know that that's feasible this day and age. So if you look at electronic devices, I did make several, took some things out like that. If they're just considered disturbances will be taken away from the student. And when we get into that one, on the next page, it talks about like more of reteaching the expected behaviors by the teacher, having the teacher being able to call the parent and let them know, and then having it come to me if it becomes a repeated offense where their electronic device is becoming a distraction. In talking with some of the staff that have been in here and in talking with Mr. Barrier, as well as Sue and Carrie, it sounds like that's already kind of what's happening. So that change is more along the lines of making sure our handbook aligns with the current practices that have been happening within the school. And then underneath there in that same paragraph for electronic devices, above that, I'm sorry, it says that they will not be allowed in any class unless authorized by the teacher. I'm trying to give a little bit more ownership back to the teachers without having to have approval in advance from me for the students to be able to have their phones out in class. I know even just in talking with other teachers yesterday and today, they do use them sometimes for things like Kahoots or games or, like educational games, review games and things like that. So it's nice, from what I've heard, not from the whole staff, but just to be able to have that control of their own classrooms. And when they become a distraction or become an issue, then I would get involved after the teacher went through and talked with the parents. And then underneath in that same paragraph, students may only have cell phones in their lockers during school hours. I just struck that out. And then in the next paragraph, if you go to page 7, where it specifically talks about cell phone guidelines, I put in there because we do allow students to have backpacks in the classroom, but they can store them in their backpack unless the teacher gives them permission to have them out. So I think it just kind of, again, puts that ownership and that control back on the classroom teacher with regards to what they're doing. And it also allows us to be able to teach the students responsible ways to be able to use their cell phones. I know it might be a little bit more difficult to enforce with the middle school, but that it's a learning thing, and it's a responsibility thing for our students to learn when is it appropriate to have your phone out and when is it not. So this is just one other way that we can use our power within the school of influence to be able to help teach that life skill to our students. If you're looking at page 7, I rewrote pretty much that entire highlighted paragraph with the failure to comply. And that was what I was saying with its failure to comply will result in an initial warning and reteaching of the expectation by the teacher. And then originally I struck it out the immediate confiscation of the phone, and then it was going to go only the parents were to come in. So I just tried to make sure that it was a little bit more user friendly, if you will, and then added in like after the second offense, now the parent will get called by the teacher, reteaching again, because we're not just teaching academics, we're teaching behaviors as well here. And then repeat offenses, then we'll take the electronic device, then I will get involved and make sure that parents are coming in and we're having some sort of heavier consequences for that disruption. If you flip
A
over.
quick question on
Yeah,
that one.
please.
Is it your intention so a kid cannot have their phone in their pocket?
I think they could, as long, and that's right, and again, like I said, I think it could be in their pocket out of sight. My only fear in the research that I read is that if they have it on vibrate and they're constantly feeling that vibrate, that could end up being a distraction to them. So again, it's gonna be very different, I think, with 6th and 7th graders versus our 11th and 12th graders. So I think as long as it's out of sight, it's okay. I added the backpack in case you all were saying, well, I think there needs to be, because originally it was, they had to keep them in their lockers. Personally, I think the pocket would be okay as long as it's out of sight. My fear is the vibrations or the, then you know that it's going off and you know that something is there versus, okay, I've trained myself that I can check it at the, at the end of class or when my teacher gives me permission. So if we go to page 8, Mrs. Liebenthal, Miss Hayden, and I went through and just, the only thing we really adjusted in the study hall is we took out the, for MASH because we, are not using the performance of the C- anymore. We're gonna be using the no evidence for a specific standard now that we're moving into grading for learning. So we just changed that one little bit on that on page 8.
So that one caught my eye, because
Yeah.
I read the no evidence as a 0, like I'm still in my letters, right? So we went from a C to an F as far as MASH. Am I reading that wrong?
So the thought process is that MASH is something that's required. Whereas, and again, I should have asked one of them to come in because they kind of helped me with this piece and I'm still learning it. So this was the idea of if somebody is missing an assignment and has a no count or no evidence, or really, messed up on it and needs to do it. So without thinking of it as a grade, they were looking more at like, this is a required thing and therefore we want those students who are missing that evidence in there.
Okay.
I can get more additional clarification on that as well.
My understanding, my old brain is that it's kind of like you're failing if you haven't turned stuff in, you gotta get caught up. So when you're going to smash, you get caught up.
And that's what I wanted to make sure. I mean, as a middle school son, and MASH is amazing, right?
Right.
Because when he doesn't have his homework in, he gets it done immediately because he doesn't want to be in MASH, right?
That's
So
right.
I just want to make sure
Yep.
they're not getting a pass, right?
Right.
So like if they get a D, that's enough. So as long as it's still, they don't have their homework, they go to MASH.
And I love that you bring that up because that's kind of the traditional thinking that we're gonna try eventually to move away from. To where we always are wanting our students to do better. We want them to always get their best instead of having our students being point chasers or looking, yes, the C is great, but could you get that B in that standard? Could you do a little bit more?
Yeah.
So again, that would be between the student and the teacher, but we were really focusing on if you are required to go, it is because you have that no evidence in there and that missing assignment or that missing piece of evidence that they would need to assess you on that standard.
Okay.
Page 9, I spoke quite a bit with staff and specifically with Sue Benz to try to figure out what exactly our policy was for our truancy. Originally, I apologize, I didn't keep the strikeout in on this one. I believe it was that parents were getting a phone call at the first unexcused. And then they were getting letters after that. So looking at what we have for our truancy by not only law, the state of Wisconsin, but also looking at what our current thoughts and process is. I would like to adjust this to be for the first through the 6th offense of being unexcused or being truant based upon that definition of unexcused for a single class period at any point throughout the day. That the student will come in and I will meet with that student. The parents will be getting phone calls. I'm hoping that will encourage them to call in if they forgot to call in and excuse their child. But I will meet with each of those students to try to come up with a corrective plan. Why are you missing 6th hour? Why are you constantly late to 1st hour or absent for 1st hour? To try to troubleshoot a little bit of that with the student first. And then the parent will still get the calls home and the notifications home. By the 7th offense, at that point, we would then not only have that conference, but we would also make sure that we're sending that formal letter home to the parents, letting them know, hey, you're getting close to your 10th day, which they get 10 unexcused or 10 absences in order before they would receive the truancy notification. And then I also included a referral will be made to the Fall River Police Department and truancy citation after that 10th one, which is that's what the state requires. Again, with this language, I'm not married to this, if there's something that you would think would be better or a more proactive way to try to handle it, I'm willing to listen and I'd love to hear your ideas. I was just trying to look at, again, at something, what's enforceable and what would I actually be able to do versus, you know, what is this say I'm doing, but then I'm doing something different. My goal is to avoid that at all possible costs. On the next page, I just changed that again from 5 to 7. So 5 to 7 days for the absences or for the unexcused absences.
Just real quick, the text still says 5.
Oh, I thought I had so on mine I have a strike through. Any student who is unexcused. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yep, I will fix that. I appreciate that. Page 11 with the discipline referrals. I just added the maybe assigned one or more of them, just so that it's not a will be thing happening, and letting people know that that list is not exclusive throughout there. So again, that's just kind of a minor thing to make sure that we're not having definitive statements in there. And then page 14, we don't do weighted grades anymore, so I just struck that out.
Good. I'd start by thanking you for your thoroughness. You can tell you really read that, and I appreciate that. So with that, I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Jeff. second by Nate. I also want to say, what I really appreciate about a lot of your updates is it seems like it's not like that domain 2 of like the learning environment focus, which if I were coming in new as administrator, like you definitely want to put your time and emphasis there of like safety, behavior, those things. So great job, Seth. Any other discussion? Right, to a motion second to approve the middle school high school handbooks. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next up is review of administration and board goals.
I mentioned mine a little last week, I'll reiterate this week, you should follow me. And I wrote in the notes there that my goal this year is to mentor our young administrators. We have Jennifer and Dave Brown. To continue to work and make Fall a place to attract and keep our teachers and students. Want to make sure that we work on our culture, our climate, that this is a place where kids want to come to school. Kids want to come here over enrollment, they want to stay here once they are here. The same thing works with staff. We've always tried to start putting in some things to let staff know this is where they want to be. They want to be here, they want to stay here. And I'm going to, on next Tuesday, when we meet with all staff, I'm going to compliment some of our current staff, how they have talked about our school has helped bring in some of our new staff. And want to really encourage that because they're the first people that's where most people get their information from, what they think about our school, from board members or our school staff, how they talk about it. And I think we had at least a couple people came here this year because of the way someone on our staff talked about Fall River, what it's like here. So we really want to keep encouraging that kind of attitude because we are our best recruiter to let other people know this is a great place to be. This is the kind of place I want to be, that people can appreciate and work with you to keep on making sure we have things in place that people say Fall River is a place to be, kid or teacher or whatever position, not just teaching staff. We're looking for other positions here soon too, probably.
I would second what you said, Dennis, just outside of my own goals that I've had 3 staff members in the past 2 days reach out to me about our open positions and recruiting they've done. So I think that is my takeaway on that is 1, thank you, but then 2, that tells me also they're telling people this is a good place to come to and encouraging that. So I think that's a great thing to have, that grassroots element of our recruiting. My goals are, I have 2 main ones this year. One is the director piece and one is the principal piece. So as the director, last 2 years, really, directors typically would meet throughout the year in a networking meeting at CISA 5, where you get updates around special ed policy for DPI. But then also it's a networking time to talk about problems or scenarios that other directors and special ed are having throughout the CISA 5 and then also throughout the state. Those have been virtual. So my goal this year is to actually go to them, network with the directors that I know, kind of through a webcam, but actually sit down and talk with them more. And so that when things do come up, I'm not just trying to contact someone that sees a 5 or mile mentor, I'm contacting others within the field who also have experience. So that, I think that just keeps me fresh in what is going on around the state, and I have a better grasp or current grasp of special ed law, which I think is important for us as a district. As the principal, I've had the pleasure the last 2 days of going to the mental health summit in the Dells with a group of 8 staff members. There's a really good contingency from Fall River. Nurse Jess was there also, and it was, I think it was really impactful. Went to a lot of good sessions. And a goal of mine is to work with that group, attend those meetings, and start to put some things in place. Nurse Jess and I talked today about having a speaker potentially come in this year also. Tom Farley, who is Chris Farley's brother, who is now kind of talks about how do you connect people and how do you help kids who are struggling so that they don't make poor choices later in life, kind of Chris Farley did. And how we interconnect some of our tougher kids. I just think that mental health aspect for our kids, and also our staff, because last 2 years in education, I think we saw the results of that this summer a little bit, to be honest with you. And I know there was concern around that, but I think the last 2 years in education have been tough on everyone. And I think we need to, hopefully this year is a quote unquote normal year, but then we can work on building our culture. And I think with Jenny here and myself and Dennis, that we'll be able to hit that, and our mental health committee is going to be a strong aspect of that. I want to be a big part of that.
So my focus, obviously, as a brand new administrator in the district, is to work on, kind of like Ryan was saying, increasing our culture and that cohesion that we have, not only with my direct people at the middle school and the high school, but also K-12. So through that, one of my goals is to be visible. I want to be visible to not only our students and our staff here, but also to all of you and to our community. So I'm gonna do that by starting to attend things. I'm gonna be at the football game tomorrow, the middle school football game, I'll be at the game on Friday, starting with those things that are easily accessible, and then finding additional ways to make sure that I'm visible and people know who I am and can feel comfortable talking to me, asking me questions, and making sure that they're getting the truth about what's happening within our building. Ryan and I did talk to, we're gonna start with a plan. We're starting at first semester, and then we'll kind of see how it goes, where we are gonna be getting our staff together K-12 once a month, and not only hit with the wellness and focus on the mental health and the wellness, but also some of that cohesion building, that team building that we need to get back to, if I'm gonna be honest, with it within our district, working together, bouncing ideas off of each other, and just kind of getting out of our silos and being a true family again. So that's one of my first goals. My second goal is we are rolling out grading for learning this year, and so I really want to be supportive of my teachers. I have been spending a lot of my summer getting my brain back into that, that way of thinking versus traditional grading, learning about assessments, and I have more that I need to get through. So I want to make sure that I am very knowledgeable about the practice and that I can become a quote unquote building expert. So that's one of my goals, because I want to make sure that I'm supporting not only my teachers, but also making sure that our families and our students are knowledgeable and understand the why behind our move towards grading for learning. One of the other things that I would like to do is, after going through and looking at our ACT data that we had this summer, I noticed that our 2 biggest currently with the last year's students reported career choices of our students are business and healthcare. So I want to make sure that we're looking at like what can we do with regards to our schedule, our electives, maybe outside things, and just kind of working with not only the people that we have, but figuring out what is our capacity? What can we find? Obviously, you're all aware that there's a teacher shortage. And so, you know, some of that might, you know, I might get knocked off my pedestal a little bit on that one with regards to that, but I'm hoping, kind of like what everybody else is saying, that through the word of mouth, which will take us into my last goal, through the word of mouth, through our teachers, maybe we can get some people in here and can get some extra classes and electives for our students so that we're filling their schedule with things that they want to take here at Fall River. And my last one is I want to increase our social media presence. I think that by doing that, by getting our name out there and by letting other surrounding communities and the whole state and the country for that matter, if they can see the awesome things that we have going on here, again, I would like to believe that that might help us a little bit with our hiring, or, you know, not only retaining our teachers, but if somebody does move on, kind of like you were talking before with Kobe into a private sector or whatever, that we have people want to come here and people are excited to be able to come here. So those are my 4 goals that I have for myself as the administrator this year.
Thank you.
I jotted down a few notes for what I thought would be areas for us to prioritize goals. Similar strand of what I've been hearing from admin too is to attract and retain high quality staff. So across the board, from custodial to coaches to classroom teachers to assistants, all those positions. Looking for the most highly qualified staff we can and retaining them. Updating and maintaining efficient facilities. I know that's something we've been working on with some of the COVID funds, like with those tables, with the flooring, with things like that, that what's going to get Fall River another 50 years, 100 years, you know, into the future. Like I think of the pool, like we've talked about some ideas about what we could do with like diving boards and things like that, but this hopefully can be a year we can prioritize that. And then refine and review the budget process to plan for long-term success and fiscal responsibility. So obviously a big piece is the unknowns in school funding, but as long as we can continue to like look for areas like you've done for savings and where can we put that money towards our staff to again meet that first goal to take us into years into the future. Like I think you had mentioned that we're the only school in the county that's got under an operational referendum. Like that's pretty significant, and that's something we can't take for granted as we know too. And then the last one, and probably the most important one I would say, is to increase growth and achievement in academics, like specifically literacy and numeracy. But and kind of wrapping those all together is our undertaking with the policy review and update the district policies to support the board, admin, and community and student goals. So I kind of thought of those like 4 different areas of our focus, with those policies being a huge piece that will hopefully give clarity then for everybody about how we're going to do that.
Those all sound great.
I don't know if we want to, is that something that we want to like post somewhere, like on our school board page on the website, if we say like, if we update those annually and like,
We could put that on our webpage. Yeah.
if that's something that the community can see, kind of here's what we're thinking
Here's
for.
our board's vision for this year.
Do you want it in the newsletter as well?
I think that would be
I think
great.
that's a great place. To
Yeah.
Would you mind, I mean, I jotted down notes, but would you mind just emailing?
I was
us
trying, yeah, I was
so
trying to
that
say that.
It's complete, thank you.
Yeah.
Exactly what you-
Yes, better than my handwriting too. One thing I was gonna say, that kind of goes along with this a little bit, but the first one is, I know for staff appreciation, last year we had sent an email, I drafted something up that I sent you. I was gonna ask us if it's okay with you all, I'll draft something up for the back to school as teachers come back, like here's from your board members, like good luck and embrace the school year and get ready for the adventure like every year is. If it's normal, we'll see about that. We'll find out in about a year if it was normal or not. But
Yeah.
You don't know?
I know, no. not
Yeah, you know. Can't have the word unprecedented in it, I can't. I'll send that to you, I'll look at it first before I send it to you.
That's a good idea there.
Because that's, I mean, that's the basis, like we do think about teachers and hopefully they know that. And so it's just one way we can keep our connection with them. Any other thoughts about admin or school board goals?
I love the social media piece. I think social media is free and it's obviously a big piece of what people are doing nowadays. My kids mentioned more than once that this school likes this school on Twitter, or this school likes this school on Instagram. And no, seriously, I mean, I think everyone is paying attention to what everyone else is doing. For the good or bad.
Yeah, right. Fall River folks.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Very
Can
good.
can I say, can I go, well, is that, we don't have to vote on any of that, there's nothing to do there. Can I go back to the buyouts and ask, what is I mean, is $2,000 low in our community? Is it high in our community? Are there other communities that do $10,000, $8,000, $5,000?
No, you cannot make it truly punitive. It has to be only what the cost of the replacement of the person is. Now, in my position, you could make it a higher number like that if you plan on hiring a firm to replace it. Because that's gonna be a larger cost. If three of us replace somebody, really all you're looking at is our time and the staff's time that helps us in the interview process. So you've got to really make it no more than what it really costs the district. So you can't charge a teacher 10 grand to leave because it's not gonna cost 10 grand to replace them.
Yeah, are there districts that don't charge at all?
Oh, yeah, I think everyone charges something. I don't know what around here is, but last district was only $500. And, or maybe they went to 1,000, but
Okay.
2,000 is probably in the ballpark of many.
Right.
I think some raised it, hoping that would keep people, but I don't think it does.
All right, next up is district reports.
All right, so, one, I just want to thank, Whitney Wagner, all the teachers who came today for the mentor program. And Whitney does a great job of getting everyone set up with a mentor and then puts on a great day today. We were able to meet with, all the new staff this morning, kind of run down, a little bit of what makes each of us tick as administrators, and just welcome them so that they feel welcome right away. Had lunch with them. That was really great. Mr. Anderson comes out of his way to drive the school bus, so load up on the bus and go have lunch together. But it's little stuff like that. It's a school district that I've never been a part of anywhere else. There you do that, and that's pretty cool.
Fielders.
Yeah, it was great. It's good. At the Westonburg. It's fantastic. Highly recommended this. So in the summer, parent, what do you do? I look at data. And I spent a day at least looking at our iReady data. And what I'm doing is, one, I want to see how are the students growing in a school year? Are they meeting their growth expectations for a school year? And then how many of them are making that stretch growth, which is a year plus? The other thing I'm looking for is, are we doing a good job, my team doing a good job of identifying kids who are in need of an intervention who may not be growing for a year? Or have we done a good job of identifying the kids who need additional services? So in looking at our data, first, I want to thank the teachers. At the elementary, our iReady data was fantastic overall. We had a lot of kids. When I say a lot, I mean, in looking at this, in both math and reading, most classrooms, there might have been a classroom or two that just missed that, but in both math and reading, we're well over 50%. With students who are either on grade level or mid to above grade level across the elementary. And I also think that reflects obviously in your school report card. Our school report cards have been fairly good at the elementary level also. So I think there's correlation there. I also think that the staff here in my career, we give the extra attention to help those kids meet their stretch growth. And we had a significant number of kids per classroom, per grade level in both math and reading, not just making use of the growth, but more than use. I think that says a lot about our teaching staff, about our families, and about the kids that we have here, and just the hard work they put in. So on two fronts, the kids who are really excelling, that excites me. On the other front, kids who need the additional support, I think we're doing also a good job of identifying those kids and getting them services that they need either to catch back up or to get them additional services as needed. So, and that goes to my team of Jen Reese in Title I, that goes to Lisa Roach our school psychologist and myself and Jennifer, and just working with our teachers to identify those kids who need that boost. And so overall, I think we're doing a good job, and our data reflects that. So I want to give kudos to the people. That's hard work, and it pays off, and that just shows that.
All right, well, thank you.
So I've been doing a lot of work on hiring since I was hired. That's why I was kind of laughing when you were talking about the time. I was like, oh, I'm gonna be doing a lot of cold calls here again first to get someone, but I'm confident, maybe a little too confident, that we will find a plan for our PE spot that we need to fill. We're getting most of our extracurriculars filled. There are still a couple open, but I talked to one of our high school teachers into NHS yesterday, and he confirmed today that he doesn't have any remorse about it. So, so we're working on getting all of those spots filled, and that has really engulfed a vast majority of my time. As I alluded to before, I have gone through with a fine tooth comb our ACT data that I can't get into details about yet. But the positive of that is that I see some things that we might be able to tweak, and some populations that we might be able to target and be able to see even greater growth without revealing too much with our responses, our assessments in the future. So there's a lot that we're working on. As I talked about earlier too, with that fourth, we're looking at that fourth Wednesday for our K-12. We're also implementing data meetings once a month, where our teachers are coming in, they're gonna work in teams, we're gonna dissect some of this data, look at the aggregated data, figure out what can we do, what little tweaks can we make, nothing like major, but small things that we can do differently to try to make sure that we are giving our students the best opportunities that we can to excel and to grow and to show that on their standardized tests. So there are some things that we will be able to go to look at, and that will be happening. And then we're also going to be looking at providing, along with Kendra, time for our teachers to work together in collaborative teams. So that, again, trying to get rid of those silos and have people working together to figure out, okay, what works for you with Johnny? Well, this works for me. Great, let me try that. Those sorts of things. Just troubleshooting some of that. So that was the vast majority of my time over the last month.
And just real quick, Jennifer's been great to work with already, so.
What do you want?
Yeah, sure. No, but really, she's been great to work with already. Is a go-getter. Sorry. But it's good, she's type-based, so she's gonna keep me balanced, and her office is really beautiful.
Stop that.
Any chance, go check it out. She's got like crystals that glow and moving water. It's just amazing. But no, she's been great to work with, and Dave too. Dave's been putting a lot of time, a lot of troubleshooting. We've been helping Dave out also, and he's been a very nice addition. So I'm excited to have two team members next to me. They've been great.
And Ryan said it too.
I say that.
I know, geez.
That's good. I hear that at home. So that's awesome.
I start with at the end of July, I attended the WASDA Superintendent Legal Seminar. I was able to bring some things back I've already shared with Ryan for special ed and some other things. So that's the thing with Jennifer and I would sit down and go through some things that I was able to get for them. But the thing that got pounded by speaker after speaker after speaker was, make sure this is in your policy. Follow your policy. What's in your policy? They over and over to talk about policies, and there was a Neola up there that said, did you pay these guys to tell you that we need your Neola policies? So it made me really glad that we are in the process of working through that. And starting in September, we're going to probably, for a while, monthly meet before the board meeting at 5 o'clock like we did tonight, and go through some policies and go through the next round. And as the policy committee makes the first approval, then probably the next month, we'll bring them to the full board for them to get their approval, and we'll start slowly adopting all the policies. So they hit it hard about, you gotta know what's in your policy. You gotta make sure you follow your policy, and if you, that's where the schools get in trouble. But the policy also gives us direction. How does the board want us to do things? There's a lot of times in the last couple of years, we've looked through policy and there's nothing there. So what do we do? And I just think that doesn't help run the school. So I'm really thankful that we're going towards Neola. So policy committee, get ready. We're getting to a point, and every meeting we had, well, Mr. Zacco was with us originally, Jennifer's with us, and Ryan and Andrea. I don't think we've had anyone else in there too. Okay, Jake Hartman's in there for all this technology. So we've had a really good team, and our representative from Neola says this is about as efficient a group as he's seen. And we have a lot of people's voices working, and we also are able to split up some of the duties that way. So we have a number of things we'll start bringing to get your opinion on. I also mentioned in my report about, we're going to talk about some safety training. With the new, I did the Alice training, active shooter type things with the new staff today. I've done it with the whole staff last year. We're gonna do some reminders in wake of Uvalde, what happened there and what didn't work there. Just as a reminder to our school is we don't want to, I mean, the odds are small, but they're not zero. We don't want to be the place, you don't want to be the person who did this or did that or that, and that's the problem. So we're just going to remind people what our expectations are. We had a really good discussion, heard from people who've been in other districts today and they had questions, so it was really kind of nice to have a chance to go through the Alice training.
Now, is that training with the police department?
No, it's me. I'm a certified Alice trainer.
Is there any thought about bringing them in just so that you know how they're gonna respond and they know how you are?
I have my notes. I've got to talk to Chief. But we've had this kind of little bit of discussion, but it's got to be very clear that they're coming in right now. That was one of the biggest failures at Uvalde. I believe that's what he's told me in the past, but we need to sit down and make sure it's very clear. And offers for Mesner too, probably because those are the two that are around the most. I believe that's what they're going to do. I can't believe that it happened somewhere else that way, but we want to make sure that's not what's going on here. So we do have to get them, make sure they're on board. I talked to the chief last year when I did this training. He wasn't here at the time when I went through the training, but he was aware of what we were doing. And he and I sat down and talked school safety before I did that training. Yeah, they're huge. Part of that is the mapping we're talking here. There's a grant that went through that was passed that we've got a company who will help us map our school and all our facilities. And any police officer that needs to respond, they'll have that map of our school in their squad car. So they can access, we say it's door 6, we say it's the tech ed room. They can look at the map and there it is. They know exactly where they're going. They know exactly what part of the building they're entering. They know exactly where the problem is. So we've kind of got into that early, and I'll get Chief Van Geisel, he's the one who brought it to our attention that this was coming. So he got us kind of early on the list. So hopefully that we can get that accomplished relatively soon. I think I've answered all the things for the office of school safety in Madison. I think they've got all our information now, so I think they're ready to approve that hopefully very, very soon. We had a meet and greet tonight. Is this something you'd like to continue next year? Yeah. All right. I kind of guess that we might. I hope we don't have quite this number of people for the next year, but I appreciate everyone coming tonight. I think it was so helpful for you folks that are new. You got to meet some new people, and some of the staff and some of the kids came, and I think most people enjoyed it. So take some more food on your way out if you're still sitting out there. The other thing I just want to tell about is that the Alumni Association had their meeting last Saturday, and they called us, it was Judy Robbins called and said, would you give us a tour of the school? We have some people that haven't been in decades and would like to see what's updated in the school. So about 2:30 Saturday, I had 11 retirees people. They all had their class of, they graduated. And I took them around the building and showed them all the things. I heard so many stories about, remember what happened here? And I did this out there. And they could remember what used to be in these different classrooms and different things. So they had a lot of fun. And I heard stories about the pool and why we had the pool and whose dad was on the board at the time when they approved the pool. It was really, really actually adorable. But the cutest thing was we got through the whole thing. We ended up in the gym, and one little lady goes up to us and says, Gerald, do you remember our prom? We walked down off the stage, off the stairs, out to the middle of the gym, and he said, I was prom queen. So it was really cute.
Well, thank you for doing that for them when they're here.
They had fun.
Good. anything else from anybody? Can't hurt to top that story, I would say. Then we'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Yeah.
Motion by Nate, second by Kenny. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries.